I just want to tell everybody how excited I am today because this moment is a moment-to-moment experience with my dear friend Brian, who I have known, I think, forever. And what I was going to start talking about, and we're going to probably go all over the place, but is when he said to me when I started my theater, I'll help you fundraise, which is the most impossible thing to do. Now I'm going to introduce you to Brian, and I'm going to ask him how he did it, because I certainly was not helping him. What did you do?
Well, I'm going to give you up a little secret. When we mentioned fundraising way back when,
Yeah.
I knew nothing about fundraising.
None of us did. No.
I never even knew how to ask anybody for money for even my allowance. But I thought, well, okay, sure, I can help out. And the way that worked was basically I was very interested in what you were doing. I thought your company was terrific from what I'd seen of it. We had a mutual friend who was very passionate about it. That helped bring us together.
Was that
Dee.
Naomi? Dee. Oh, Dee. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Bless her soul. And so it basically just started out kind of just learning as I went.
Yes, and learning fundraising as you go is the most. I remember one time we went to some famous person's house for lunch, didn't we?
Yes. Her name was Jill Kremens. Her husband was Kurt Vonnegut. And what happened was Miss Kremens came to one of our performances. And she was standing out front, and I got chatting with her, because I would oftentimes, if I was going to be there, I would try to be out front, just sort of mingling a little bit and find out, are you coming to see the show, or do you know somebody in the cast, or just kind of make them feel welcome. And we got talking, and I think she was a friend of Kitty Carlisle's.
Oh, then we know.
So I believe that's the connection. So she was coming to see Kitty and whatever. I said, great. And so at intermission, whatever, I think I mentioned to you something about her and whatever. I introduced you at that point. And
which I'm totally blank about, because of course I was thinking about 20 other things. But the thing about Brian is he remembers, and I don't. Anyway, go on.
Well, so we basically, the introductions were made, and you said to me on the side, she would be a great person to have on the board. And I'm like, oh, okay, because I really didn't think that far along with the thing. I just was trying to get people into the theater and sat down and not only to get them in the first time, to get them to come back. But you said the board. I said, well, so we invited her to lunch.
Oh, we invited her.
We took her out to lunch over on First Avenue, near where she lived, very convenient for her. And we had a delightful time, nice conversation. She graciously invited us over to her townhouse a few blocks away. We met her husband, who was taking a nap on the couch when we arrived. And he graciously got up and visited with us for a bit. They gave us a little tour of the apartment. And as we left, she thanked us and said she'd be in touch. She took our photo on the front steps, but she was a photographer. That was, I understood, to be a common thing for her to do. And that was that. We did not end up having her join the board. She had other things to do or what have you, but it was a great experience about how to go about trying to get people on the board.
And when they do the things that she was doing, which was, I'm going to introduce you to my husband who's so famous and all that, you kind of know that it's her way out, I think.
Possibly, we were there a good half hour at least.
Yeah,
I mean, she gave
time.
us due time and everything, very polite, and whatever. But as far as other fundraising goes, Naomi, who I got to know, was helping you. She was like your right arm person for everything.
Oh, sure.
She was what a powerhouse. She and I would work together to write grant letters, and at first mine were quite sloppy and just sort of to the point and what have you. And they didn't go very far. But eventually, I learned to study language carefully. I had a full-time job. I was a news writer down in Lower Manhattan and Wall Street. And as a writer, and a news writer and a business writer, I had access to all the publicly traded companies on Wall Street and their websites. And I could, in my spare time, what little I had, could look on the websites and find out what kind of philanthropy, if any, they did.
See, this is so incredible. This is really incredible because excuse me for interrupting you, but what I love about Brian is he has an inventive mind to make things work. But go ahead.
Well, you study the websites and you look for keywords after a while. For instance, in our situation, we were looking for theater pieces that featured actors 50 and over, a mature life experience, not just having people of that age play the neighbors or the parents or the grandparents or what have you, but the storyline would follow their interest. They'd be the focal point. So you look for keywords like aging. Is there anything in their website about aging? Anything about theater? Anything about live performance art? You just keep stretching it and you try to find a match. And then once you find a couple of matches, I must say, aging and performing arts were not showing up in a lot of websites within the same paragraph or even the same sentence. But when it did, bingo, you went after them. And you would write to them and say, I see that you were, contributing to places that service aging, theater, maybe student being exposed to theater, etc., whatever. We do all that. We employ seasoned actors. We try to get school kids in. We have an internship program. All that kind of stuff. So you do this, we do that. Great match. And eventually you kind of use their language, whatever they say they do.
It's amazing.
That's what we do. And you just mirror it. And so that worked. That started to work more and more. Not every time, certainly. You get a lot more no's than yeses.
Oh, yes.
But I was very pleased and thrilled. For instance, we finally connected with Newman's Own.
Yes.
Paul Newman, late Paul Newman's.
That's an incredible one because everybody wants that.
That was tough. There were a few rejection letters there. Thank you for writing, but, that's not our cup of tea for right now, whatever. But you just kind of keep doing it, and then something hits on their side, and they send a check. And suddenly you got $10,000 you didn't have yesterday. And boy, is that a high.
That was a high. And also the Virginia Cortella Mars Foundation.
Yes, well, actually, that started before I came along, too. I think you started that relationship or whatever. Those were sisters, I believe.
Yeah, for the Mars bars.
The Mars people. Candy Empire. Yeah. And they were quite devoted, I believe. It was almost like a yearly thing. They would send money or pretty close to it.
We were very lucky.
So you get that in the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. They were a big backer of ours. I met with them a couple of times in person.
And that was in the old building, the old one that was bombed.
World Trade Center.
World Trade Center.
Yeah, tragically, I was going to say ironically, but it's more of a tragedy. I was scheduled to meet with them at 4:30 on the day of 9/11.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
I got out of work just down the street at 4 o'clock when the stock market closed, and I was going to go up there and sit with them and see what we could do for each other. And of course, that never happened because before even noon that day, we were all cleared out of the area, and we all know what happened after that. But,
I wonder if anybody from that group was killed.
I honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But anyway, they were big backers of us, and they're still going strong, I believe.
Yes.
And what have you. So you find a few companies like that, or outfits, or individuals. Certainly, individuals are so important. Friends, family. And anybody who came to the show,
one thing that I was a little bit discouraged about, which I continue to think about, there were some people who came to the show who had big money. They were companies that we have heard about, and they were buying those tickets for nothing.
Oh yeah, the TDF vouchers.
Just TDF. There was one that you could get if the place was not full. You could get it for nothing. Not even TDF.
Oh, that hurts.
I forget which one it was, but this one company, and they were always wanting to be friends with me and everything. It was like that. Then afterwards, I thought about this afterwards, and I thought, that's not a friend. You know?
You're happy to fill the seats because
Yes.
you're hoping that they'll tell somebody and have a good time, but at the same time, you know, you're not making anything off that. So yeah, it's a two-sided sword. But I would try to also find ways to make not only the show. I mean, I didn't select the shows. You did that with your team and whatever. I certainly didn't cast them. But I would try to find out from people how their experience was, not just during the show. Did you like the show or not, or did you like the cast? But how was your experience getting here?
Oh.
Because if people are having a tough time parking, or they couldn't find a place to eat beforehand, or they're not sure what they're doing right afterwards, or how to get to the subway, or what have you, and there's a hitch along the way, that's sometimes what they remember, even though the show may have been fantastic. Everybody was doing their best, you know,
That's
that night.
interesting. I didn't know
Top
that.
of their game. So the experience itself is very important, and if you follow up with that, for instance, there was a restaurant across from the neighborhood
Yes, wonderful.
Jubilee, I believe it was
Yes,
called.
fabulous.
And for a time, they would offer 10% off of a person's meal if they showed their ticket stub. So if you go around the neighborhood too and try to find other businesses that do that, give a little bit of a discount, that builds a relationship, and it also gives some publicity about the show too. They might recommend the show that's just down the street. All those kinds of little ways to
See, a lot of these things I didn't know anything about because I wasn't in that kind of. I certainly wasn't able to fundraise, but those things that you figured out. Brian is a very successful man. He is a successful real estate person right now, and he figures out what to do to get people in. And that's really so important.
Well, that's my livelihood now. There's a million real estate agents out there. I've been doing it 11 years. I was a news writer for like 3 decades before that, so that gives you an idea of how old I am. But you really have to listen, pay attention, and give people what they want as much as you possibly can, because they'll go elsewhere or they won't do anything. It's easy for a lot of people to do nothing. So you've got to come up with a reason. You know, I jokingly say I'm either talking people onto the ledge or off the ledge every day, because real estate's a big decision, you know, obviously, and probably the biggest decision most people make financially. But you just have to engage, find out what their motivation is, or if they need motivation. Reality versus pipe dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
really want this. This is where you want to live. Here's your budget. How are we going to make that work? You know,
yeah,
I mean,
I want to live in a. Who was that lady who said that she thought her house should sell for some extraordinary amount of money, and you said,
well, it was during the pandemic, and there was a flood of people coming out of the city to. I work up in Westchester County primarily. Of coming out of the city, trying to get away from the shared wall experience, you know, and the COVID, you know, disaster that turned out to unfold for the next couple of years. Anyway, some people upstate got a little bit greedy with their prices, saying like, wow, if I can get these people to come and pay ridiculous amounts of money, I'm going to cash in and get the heck out of here. And I did have a customer, I don't usually tell tales out of school, but there's no names here or anything like that, but she wanted $1 million for her home. And it was like clearly not worth half that, if that. But at the time, it was almost like a rodeo. Things were happening so fast, and people were making strange, quick decisions. I agreed to take the listing, and did 3 or 4 open houses. People came and went, "Are you crazy?" And eventually, I thought, I probably am, and I really need to get away from this. And somebody came in and said, "Okay, I'm going to do you a favor, Brian. As one professional to another, I'm going to put in an offer for $650." And I presented the offer, and they're like, "Forget about it. How dare they? I should ask for $2 million, whatever." So eventually, we had a parting of ways. I couldn't do anything more for her, and she went through, I think, 7 more realtors over the course of the next year. And eventually I looked online just to follow up on that property, and almost a year to the day that I got booted out and someone else came in, it sold for $650.
Oh, it sold for the thing that friend. Oh.
She could have saved a year's worth of tax payments or what have you, upkeep, but people learn when they're ready to learn.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And people, the thing that I love about you is that you engage in people like that. When you said you went around the people outside of the theater and asked them all sorts of questions, and you're a very friendly person, so people will talk to you and say things that maybe they wouldn't say to other people. And that's the beginning of help, in terms of the fundraising. I mean, I find it extremely difficult to ask for money or to do the business that you do. It's business.
It doesn't come naturally. I still struggle with it, believe it or not. Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is the money aspect. I'd much rather talk about the property or the neighborhood or, what have you, the schools. But then when it comes down to money, that's like, oh, here's the, all right, suck it up and just spit it out. This is what you're going to need to buy it. This is how we're going to strategize it, and we're going to get it done. Because eventually, I don't just put in a 9-to-5 job and Friday night collect my paycheck. I only get paid when I close something. So eventually, baby needs new shoes. I gotta do something.
And you have to help that person see what they're going to pay.
I say, you know what, this just isn't going to happen. This is what you want. This is what you got. Mm-hmm. So unless you come up with something else, you can tell me 100 times, work your magic. Well,
they tell you to work your magic?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh my God.
Work your magic, and then if it doesn't work out, if they lose out in a bidding war or what have you, how could you let this happen?
How can you let this happen? Well, I'll tell you don't have enough money, honey.
So, you just have to kind of let people learn at their own pace, but eventually, I have to also make decisions. And if I go a certain point with people and it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere, I have to just kind of move on.
But the interesting thing about it, I'm going to tell stories about you. The interesting thing about Brian, because of the kind of a person he is, when you were at the first place that you wrote, what was what was the name of the?
Oh, well, I worked at Standard & Poor's for many years.
The place
I worked for
where you did
United
the television.
S&P,
Standard & Poor's. And Brian was interested in going further. So he created something special for himself where you had a television program about what was going on.
Well, what it was I was a news writer, so one of the things I wrote about was called Trends and Ideas.
Welcome to another episode of Trends and Ideas. I'm your host, Brian Egli.
You basically write your own, and you host it. And I was like, oh. So actually, I heard about a group called Toastmasters.
We will talk to you another time, and thank you for coming. And please become a, what do you call it?
Subscriber.
Subscriber to our organization so that our organization can go further too and get other wonderful stories like Brian's.
Thank you.
You're welcome.